Hi all, we're hopping on live. This is the Thursday, what Lisa has named Ask Tiffany. I don't know about that, but it's a time for us to come together. And so I welcome anyone who is online now. I know it's 7 a.m. in Canada, Eastern time, but I also know that it's other times at other places in the world, including here in India where I currently am. It is evening here. It's actually 5:30 in the evening, and you may be hearing some of the sounds of movement and construction and people finishing their days. So as we've had the last couple of weeks, we're going to have this time where you can ask any questions, whether it's about Ayurveda or yoga, meditation, whatever might be there for you. The primary intention around this was a Q&A allotted for Ayurveda. But if there's any questions, then this is really the time that we come together each week to have these questions answered. So I see that a couple are joining slowly and wondering if we have any questions this morning, anything that might be there from anyone. So any questions that you're hoping might be answered. Otherwise, I know a couple questions that were sent online. Hi Sunita, hi Sarah and Diva. Welcome everyone. So I would love to answer live questions firstly, and then if there aren't any questions, then I can move directly to some of the questions that were asked recently by one of the students in the Ayurveda online course. Welcome to everyone who's joining. Welcome everyone. Okay, then maybe we'll move directly to a few of the questions that were put actually in a chat this week. One of the questions that was asked, and it's quite an extensive question actually, but it's a beautiful one, is how do we work with the energy of the Mahabutas, the elements? So the Mahabutas means the great elements. Actually, we often call it the Pancha Mahabutas. So the five, Pancha is five, Maha is great, and Bhuta is elements. So the five great elements. How do we work with the energies of these directly using yoga, chakra work, pranayama, and bija mantra, bijakshara? So it's not a light question. It's quite a full question. But maybe we can start there. Someone was asking, Sunita's asking the question, why do I put a bindi? So years ago when I first came to India and I learned really the intention of placing a bindi, it became a bit like part of my dinacharya ritual practice. Interestingly, over the years as I've been spending more time in Canada, sometimes it just created a little bit of a space between me and those there, thinking that it was more just, a fashion or something like that. But actually, the idea is that there's a sensitive point in the third eye, which is quite, let's say, porous. So it's quite receptive to the energetics of others. And so in the morning, whether it's a tilak or this is more like a gemstone bindi, after we've done puja and we've cleaned and cleansed our own system, both physically but also energetically, we've also cleansed, I would say, all the koshas, all the layers through our various sadhana, through our different practices. It can be a very powerful practice also to put something here as part of the dinacharya, as part of the daily routine, to just really be aware, firstly, that we move from the higher mind, from buddhi, from that drop of Atman as intelligence, as the higher wisdom that is inherent as our beingness in each one of us. So it's like a reminder of that. But then secondarily, it's also a bit like a protection. So when we put something like a tilak, it's often put with this finger on the right hand, kumkum, or we put ashtagandha also. There's different powders, sandalwood that can be placed as well there. These are all sacred herbs, actually, and those sacred herbs are known as helping to both cleanse but also protect and nourish that area, even energetically. So that's a bit of an answer to that question. That gave us a little bit of time as well to wait for the one who did ask this question. So Elena's on now, and she was asking this question, how we work with the energy of the five great elements directly using yoga, chakra work, pranayama, and bija mantra. Well, really honestly, we have a limited amount of time here, but I would really welcome all of you to join me in other courses, because I would say that the foundation of, for example, the yoga teacher trainings that I share, or the various retreats, immersions, really touch into this essence that all of the classical Vedic practices, especially the embodied practices of yoga and pranayama, so hatha yoga, those things arising from hatha yoga, they intend towards bringing resonance with the Mahabutas. That's the very science of them. And so specific asanas, for example, specific postures, for those of you who are not familiar with this languaging, specific postures have the intention, they have the sankalpa, the sacred intention, to bring us into resonance with one or more of the Mahabutas, one or more of the elements. What are the 5 great elements? We have earth and water, fire, air, and what we call ether or space. And so each one of these 5 elements corresponds to certain functions, certain actions in the body, but also in the mind and in our energy as well. It also, it really corresponds to certain states of mind, so states of being, like when I said now, to the mind. So it really, for example, earth in our system, I can't go through all of this, but earth, when it's harmonious and flowing, and when the relationship and the resonance with this great element is free and clear in our system, then we notice that earth flows with a clarity and a freedom. And what that might look like is in the physical body, there's a certain amount of density and vitality. There's a certain amount of nurturance and nourishment. We feel safe and secure. We feel at home. The earth is the homing energy. But then also we notice that the functions of earth, like the density and the lubrication and the stability, the structural components of the physical body, are harmonious and balanced in our system. So we don't have problems with the bones or problems with the hair, problems with our teeth, because all of these more dense structural aspects, the muscles, are earthy. They have enough earth to keep them, I would say, in the ease and in the placement that they're supposed to be in. Now with the mind, if earth is flowing and harmonious, then it allows us, for example, to feel, again, at home, secure, safe. So to feel really safe in ourselves and safe in the world, to feel a sense of trust, and just to really feel planted, to feel rooted in many ways. I'm going through this quickly, and there's much, much more that we can say about this. But actually, the wisdom and the understanding of the Mahabutas is the background of all of the Vedic traditions. So whether that is yoga or meditation or Ayurveda or Jyotish or Sanskrit, actually we see that all of the various arising traditions that arose from the Vedas, they all have this understanding that in the seeming complexity of the universe, both the macro universe and the micro, the individual, the drop, what we might call the jiva, the individual universe, that these Mahabutas, that these elements are what are allowing us to be in our fullness, that are what are allowing us to be in our completeness, in our wholeness, or our lack thereof. And so everything we see in the universal cosmos is actually available and possible, and is our birthright here in this individual microcosmic cosmos, let's say it in that way. And so understanding the Mahabutas really means understanding in many ways existence in the individuated form and in the universal form. And so in yoga, when Elena's asking this question, and this is part of Ayurveda also, when we notice that a specific element is less than in ease, less than flowing in our system, and thus is creating illness or creating some imbalances, that relationship or the lack thereof of that relationship is creating certain imbalances. By using specific asanas, by using specific pranayama, by working with the chakras, because the 5 lower chakras actually correspond to the 5 elements, or using bijaksharas, which are seed mantras, as well as a whole host of other things. There are a whole host of other practices that are outlined in the Vedic tradition. For example, pujas, specific rituals, ceremonies, using certain herbs. Certain herbs also correspond to the various Mahabutas. So there are all sorts of ways in which we can amplify and also harmonize our connection to the various elements. If we're talking about earth, let's just look at something very simply. If we say, I don't have enough earth in my structure, earth and my relationship to earth is devoid or it's not flowing, then we might say, okay, how do I connect to more earth? I go and walk on the earth, literally. And the hilarity of this is that there are even blankets and systems that you can plug in and various things today that are called earthing or grounding, right? Some of you might have these. Do any of you have these, like earthing blankets or earthing systems? You can actually plug them into the grounding source in your electrical outlet, and then you patch it onto your feet so that while you sleep, you're getting this earthing source. But this is just really to elucidate that in simplicity, this is yoga, actually. This is Ayurveda in many ways. The second chikitsa, the second medicine of Ayurveda, is found in lifestyle. The first is found in diet. The second is found in lifestyle. And so actually in lifestyle, there are so many ways in which we can harmonize our relationship with the elements. To understand the complexity of how each and every one of the asanas or the pranayama or even the dharana, the concentration techniques, or some of our dhyana or meditation techniques correspond to the elements requires some experiencing. And I would welcome a lot of you. I just put a post actually up about an upcoming teacher training that we're having soon. And really, as I said before, most, if not all, of the retreats and programs that are offered through Vichara Yoga and that I offer myself or with other co-teachers really help us to experience the authenticity and the origination of traditional Vedic offerings, yoga, meditation, etc. So there you can really learn this science. But the science of our lives is commonsensical. And that's where Ayurveda comes into a really lived, commonsensical approach. You don't have enough earth in your life, eat earthier things, live more connected to the earth. I'm looking this way because it's outside. Get your feet on the earth, get your body on the earth. Now, those of you who are in wintry Canada, you might say that's not so possible. But actually, there are many individuals who have learned to practice this even in the winter time, to be able to be okay with the changing seasons and the elements, just being in nature in general, will of course allow us to ingest more earth through the five senses. So when Elena asked this question about how to work with the energy of the Mahabutas, the five elements, etc., through yoga, chakra work, pranayama, and bija mantra, there are specificities to that, but more than that, I would like you to think about those five elements and think of even one way for each of them that you could harmonize your relationship more readily, just through your lifestyle, through what you do. How could you bring more harmony to water, more harmony to fire, more harmony to air or to space through your lives? For example, lying under the stars is a beautiful way, under the night sky, or sitting at a window, just gazing out to the night sky is a beautiful way that we can connect to spaciousness, to vastness, to the ether element. So those just give a few ideas about the first question you were asking, Elena, for this week. Sunita's asking another question. Can we drink milk when it's raining? Well, in Ayurveda, we don't make generalizations in this way. So what I would say is it depends on your Prakruti and your Vikruti. So what does that mean? It depends upon your base constitution, and it depends upon your Vikruti, your current state. So what's going on in your current situation? Now, the reason Sunita might be asking this is because in India in general, it might be said in rainy season, don't drink as much milk. Why? Why would this be said? And we have to think about the qualities. So we're always thinking about the qualities, the rasas, the tastes as well in Ayurveda. So when it's raining outside, what kinds of qualities? We might call these the Guruvari gunas. There are 20 qualities or 10 pairs of opposites of qualities in Ayurveda. And whenever one gets heightened, rather than having its counterpart, or if it doesn't have a balance of its counterpart, we might see that imbalances start to arise in our body or also in our minds. And so if it's raining outside, what are the qualities of a rainy season or a time when it's raining? These are the qualities of density, of heaviness. You can even put them in the chat if you can think of them right now. Of course, moisture. There's a softness also to the rain. There's a coolness. So milk, similarly, has all of those qualities. So it has the quality of density, of being heavy. It has the quality of being sort of soft, of being wet, of course, as well, having that moisture. And it also has a sweetness. So if we're drinking a lot of milk while we are in rainy season, we're amplifying those dense, moist, cooling qualities. And if we're an individual like a kaphic, a more kapha individual, who already has those qualities or a propensity towards them, we might find that in fact this will imbalance us. So we might find that after that we feel more heavy, more lethargic. We start to have issues with digestion, being a little bit more sluggish. We notice that we have maybe mucus in the stool. We notice that we generally have more phlegmatic conditions or more mucoid kind of conditions, that generally there's a lot more moisture and coolness happening in the body. And maybe we're feeling generally cold, or we even start to have weight gain as well. So you see, we want to think about the qualities and not just say generally everyone shouldn't be having milk during times when it's raining. What if you warmed that milk, or you put, for example, cinnamon or ginger into that milk? So you see, you would change the qualities of the milk. Turmeric in the milk would also change those qualities. So we want to think of things more in this applied way to the specific time and the specific person, the specific individual, and the season. Okay, Kimberly is asking a question. Is it good to apply Abhyanga oil after dry brushing? Absolutely. Now again, we want to think about who, what, where, but generally it's a beautiful part of the dinacharya, of the daily routine, that we do dry brushing. So those of you who aren't aware of what dry brushing is, we use either a literal brush. Love you so much, Sunita. We use either a dry brush, which we might slip onto the hand, or like we sell at Rasa Ayurveda, we have a jute glove that's like a brush as well, or a loofah, something that's going to create friction and openness that will open and stimulate the skin. So we start to dry brush. Dry brushing and Abhyanga are actually both done with the same directionality. And what that means is on the limbs, we do nice long strokes. And on the rest of the body, we're doing round strokes. And of course, in sensitive areas, we want to be careful with dry brushing, especially. We don't want to be using that on the genitals or on the breasts or the nipples directly, just slightly. Although I have to say with when I'm working with prenatal women, I do suggest some dry brushing around the nipples, because this will help in breastfeeding. So it will really help both to stimulate, but also to get them ready for breastfeeding. So is it good to apply Abhyanga oil after dry brushing? In most cases, yes, it's wonderful. But again, we want to think about Prakruti and Vikruti. So dry brushing is particularly good for Kapha dosha individuals. It creates, again, think of the qualities. It's dry brushing. It creates dryness, friction. It creates a certain mobility. So you're really mobilizing, you're moving a lot. It creates more subtlety where there may be density. What I mean by that is if the skin is oily and we start to do this, it will actually bring more subtlety, or it'll lighten that up, lighten the density up. It also helps to release toxins, etc., from the skin. So those qualities, it creates heat as well because of that friction. So those qualities, they help to balance some of the dense, heavy qualities of kapha. So it's a wonderful practice to be done more regularly by individuals either with kapha prakruti or kapha vikruti. I'm sorry if you're not all entirely familiar with these terms, or you feel I'm going a little bit fast, but if you join each week, you're going to notice that this will become commonplace for you. Or hop on and find out, or write me, find out when the next program is, either the Ayurveda online or the teacher training, or check out rasa-ayurveda.com, and you'll see we have a whole host of educational resources there to help you understand the doshas and some of the things I'm speaking to. So dry brushing is excellent to be done more regularly by Kapha dosha, and to be done a little bit less regularly by those with Vata and Pitta dosha. So because it creates friction and it can create heat and all of those kinds of things, as well as mobility and dryness, if we have a more primary Vata dosha, then we just want to be careful if we're doing this consistently, because it will amplify that. It'll create more dryness. It will create more sense of mobility in a Vata individual who might already feel a little bit, amplified or scattered, those kinds of qualities. So Contrary to that, Abhyanga, which is self-oil massage, is excellent, especially for Vata dosha, Prakriti or Vikruti, and also really wonderful for Pitta. And for Kapha individuals, we use it a little less often. So in saying all of that, what I want to say to Kimberly's question is, even if I'm a Vata dosha, Vata Prakriti individual, primary Vata dosha, and I want to do dry brushing once in a while, and what I mean by that is once every 2 weeks maybe. If I were to do that, it's an excellent routine to get into, to do Abhyanga right afterwards, to do my warm oil massaging after that. Same for Pitta. But for Kapha, sometimes we might just do dry brushing without following with Abhyanga. It's kind of the reverse for Kapha. They might do dry brushing most of the time on its own, and then maybe once every week or once every 2 weeks, use a Kapha balancing oil. And what I mean by that is when we do self-massage with oil, we want to choose the oils, the carrier oil, but also the herbal oils or the essential oils that are included in that oil that are very specific to the dosha and to what we're dealing with in our skin and in our structure in general. You see, Abhyanga oil massaging has the understanding that when we start to rub the oil on the body, we're absorbing that medicine into the entirety of the system. And so certain herbs are used in the oils that help that medicine to be ingested, to be absorbed. So for example, at Rasa Ayurveda, I've formulated 4 different oils for Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and also for Tridosha that will help, Abhyanga oils, that will help to balance, both through aromatherapy, but also through the herbal medicine, through herbalism, to be absorbed into the system. I hope that helps, Kimberly, Kim. Are there other questions that are arising? I see some other people are joining us this morning. Other questions that are arising for anyone in this moment? Anyone else have questions that might be arising right now? I notice we're a few still on. So Maya, hi Maya, is asking, which of your products would you recommend for postpartum anxiety and rehabilitation? That's a beautiful question, Maya, and I send you so much love and blessings if you're dealing with this currently right now. And I suppose that also offers an invitation right now. I would like to let all of you know that I do see people privately as well. These live Q&As are not about me promoting my own clinical services. I'm quite full, nor are they about me promoting Rasa Ayurveda. Actually, it's the opposite. I want to make this education as free and as open and available as possible. But the fact is that I created Rasa Ayurveda because of the need for some of these products that I didn't see. And let's not call them products. I would really call them, medicine gifts of Ayurveda that have been channeled through. And so we found a way that we could bring those to a wider audience. I was in clinical practice so often suggesting or making these things personally, personalized making, or shipping them in from India or from the US. And then eventually it just became a calling of the heart to make these formulas available for all of you in Canada for now, and hopefully eventually internationally as well. Okay, so which of the products for postpartum anxiety and rehabilitation? So it depends, Maya, on what point you're at in postpartum. So what I mean by that is how many weeks or what's going on. And the reason I say that is because, as I was speaking to before, Abhyanga is a wonderful practice to be done postpartum as well. And I would suggest that that be done, especially in this season, this time, with our Vata Abhyanga oil. It is a wonderful way to cocoon the body. It's a wonderful way to give herbs that help to stabilize, pacify, calm anxiety, nervousness, scatteredness, oscillation, all of the qualities that tend to increase with an increase of Vata. You see, postpartum, for almost every woman, even if, or I would say for all of us as women, even if our Prakriti, our constitution is not Vata, after we have given birth, it is a time of Vata. Any time of transition in our lives brings an introduction of space. It's transition. And so as we transit, there's a transitory space. And that transitory space, depending upon what we've gone through, or depending upon what our Prakriti is or what our Vikruti is, so depending upon what the soil is, physically and also mentally, That space may be sort of skipped over, like a beat. It's okay. It doesn't impact us too much. Or, as I see happening more and more and more because of the lives we're living today, and I would just say the stress that we're under, for a lot of us, that's not the case. And so what happens is that space happens, and we need a certain practice after that time. And this is why in Ayurveda, there is postpartum practices for at least 40 days after we give birth that help to take that space and cocoon it so that we don't feel too vast, out in the open, too exposed, I would say, in many ways. Feeling very, very exposed, up in the air, lacking of grounding. You see, there's a literal uterine space that occurs, right? Something that has been so full in the womb has now exited, and this child, of course, beautiful, all that has occurred. But at the same time, now there is a certain sense or a facade, a fallacy to some degree of separation, but physically there is a separation, and that's left a vast space. And so Abhyanga, what it does is the warmth, the oil, and also the specific herbs in something like the Vata pacifying oil, like Jatamamsi is one we use, spikenard oil. It's so great for grounding and for calming anxiety. That all helps to cocoon, protect, and bring us back to our center point. So this is just one thing, when you ask about products. But I would also suggest, when I talked about the space right now, things like creating a cocooning space. And so what does that mean? The environment. Actually, it's suggested in Ayurveda that we don't go out too much in those 40 days or 49 days, 48 days actually, after we've given birth, because we want to stay in a space that allows us to collect ourselves, that allows us to really get grounded again. Now, if that didn't happen for you, Maya, you can even try and do that now, to have regularity, to have a scheduling that will allow, again, for grounding, for pacification, that will really allow us to feel like we've, again, found a certain cocooning in our own situation. And also to create a certain protected space for the new family, including the baby. So that space also being formed and discussed, and even the space of the home, all of those things. Then even physically in Ayurveda, like in other traditions, we talk about binding. So binding around the abdomen, because where there's been space and a certain opening, now to allow there to be some binding will allow, again, for that sense of coming back into a center point, coming back to feel a little bit less vast and exposed. And there's so many various practices. Now, as I said before, it depends on the point postpartum where you are. So the other thing that I suggest for anxiety and rehabilitation, so especially around rehabilitation, is using our sacred yoni elixir, which is a vaginal oil that I formulated in the area of the vagina. But I wouldn't suggest this sort of the first 4 weeks afterwards, but I can't really generalize because it depends on what each woman has gone through. So if there's been excessive tearing, or if you've dealt with trauma in the area, we just really want to take care of how we deal with this. And so we want to take care of how we're introducing oils, or if we're doing sitz baths, all of these things, all of this postpartum care really needs to be individualized. But sort of 4 weeks after, or even directly after, I have some women who I suggest directly after to start using this oil. Actually, for many women, I suggest to start using this oil while they are pregnant, so that the area will be moistened, lubricated, pliable when we give birth. So it all depends. This is another wonderful one for rehabilitation. Another one that I would suggest is having a khichdi diet, or as Lisa calls it, and she offers through Rasa Ayurveda, a kind cleanse. So to take a time of having a mono diet, and especially khichdi or food like khichdi, which is a combination of rice and mung beans, as well as some gentle spicing, some oil or ghee, and some vegetables. It's a very, very soothing and pacifying dish that can again help to stabilize the mind, but also rehabilitate the body. And then as far as herbs, I often will suggest our Wild Woman potion, and not that you want to get wild necessarily directly postpartum, but more because of the herbs that it has in it, which are adaptogenic herbs specifically for women. Now, some women are concerned about using this during pregnancy, during breastfeeding, although I've formulated it to be safe. It has Siberian ginseng in it, not Chinese ginseng or ginseng. So because of that, it should be absolutely safe for each one of you. But of course, check in with your own trusted healthcare professional or with your own doctor if you're wanting to use that. And I would suggest taking that in warm milk. So again, it's that sort of dense warmth that is very helpful. At Rasa Ayurveda, we promote Ayurveda in a non-violent way that really communicates to our own hearts, which means we're plant-based. So all of our formulas and everything we offer is vegan. But if you drink dairy milk, you might use dairy milk. Otherwise, using a milk like hemp milk or a rice milk might be something wonderful, and warming it slightly. And then adding twice daily 1 teaspoon of the Wild Woman potion, or just shatavari. So I shouldn't say just, because shatavari is an amazing herb and we sell it at Rasa Ayurveda as a standalone herb. So I can also suggest that you put 1 teaspoon of shatavari 2 times a day. You can even start for the first 2 weeks with half a teaspoon, 2 times a day, with a little bit of maple syrup or honey. You can see I'm missing Canada with my maple syrup mention. So that would be some of my suggestions. There's so many other things I could suggest, Maya, but I really hope that that's of benefit, of service to you. Okay, we have a couple more minutes just to finish off. Nutty Gals is asking, should you oil then dry brush or vice versa? Dry brush then oil. That's the best order according to Dinacharya. And then Sunita is asking, your last week's video is not uploaded on IGTV. Yes, we're having a challenge because these videos go over 30 minutes. For some reason, Instagram is not allowing us to put up videos longer than 15 minutes. So what we're doing, friends, so I hope that some of you will hear this, and we'll put this again on Instagram. What we're going to do is we will put the first minute of these, and then the link will always be in our bio to our website where you can get each one of these videos in their entirety. So they will be embedded in the blog section. You'll just click on the link in our bio and it'll go directly to these live Q&As, and you can always watch them there. And until we get more technically savvy, we may be Ayurveda savvy, but technically savvy is a little more difficult. Oh, hi, Chrissy. Right now, my sister and also my nephew are watching. Beautiful to see you also. Okay. Any final questions that are there? Oh, you're so welcome. Any final questions for this morning, this evening, wherever you are in the world? I know I have people in different places in the world. I really hope that these videos are of service. I've been really enjoying these last 3 weeks, offering them in this way, and I hope that we'll continue to grow in questions, but also in our love for Ayurveda and just our love for life, let's say it in that way, and that really they'll contribute to more ease in each and every one of your lives. That's really my hope. So until next week, to each and every one of you, maybe this morning we can chant together. I would love to chant a chant to Dhanvantri. Dhanvantri is the Lord of Ayurveda. And so I welcome you, as we do in our online courses and the various things that I offer around Ayurveda. So just bring your hands to heart and you can repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Dhanvantaraye Amrita Kalastaya Sarva Maya Vinashaya Trailokya Nadaya Om Namo Bhagavate Namaha. Thank you, everyone. This prayer really asks that Dhanvantri, that the Lord of Ayurveda, which is really our very own hearts, this healing wisdom that lives within each of us, that it will really come to the forefront of our being and guide us to really live